Hey, this is Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, bringing you another video. And this time, we're going to go ahead and implement the front-end service. And you know what? I decided I'm going to try to take a stab at it and write CloudFormation to deploy it to CloudFront and have S3 buckets. Now, I don't feel that we need to do ClickOps with that first because we already had some experience doing that when we were doing the asset pipeline because we ended up doing using CloudFormation. And so I hope I'm not going to regret this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think that I want to do this because, the basis of this architecture, we want to keep reusing it for other boot camps, like the Terraform boot camp. And so if I don't do this, then I'll have to do this double container thing, and I don't want to do that. So, and it looks like I opened up the wrong repo as per usual. How many times does that happen? Every single time I use it. I'm going to go all the way down here. Of course, not a problem for you, just a problem for me because I use branches. I'm going to go ahead and go to Gitpod here. We'll open this up. We'll give this a moment here to open up. I will see you back here in a moment, okay? All right, so my environment spun up here, and so what I'm going to do is go into our AWS directory, and we're going to go to CFN. I'm going to make a new folder here, and this is going to be, well, this basically now is the backend service. It is named service generically, so it's up to us if we want to change that later down the road. If we were trying to break this up into multiple containers, we might want to leave it generically here because we'll want to have conditionals and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave the name alone. I'm kind of okay with it here. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder here, and I'm going to call it, front end. Okay, so, sorry, that's what I'm going to call it. And we're going to go in here, make a new file. I'm going to do template YAML. And we could technically make this a SAM file, but I don't want to do that because we're not deploying any functions with it. So if you're not really using like Lambda functions, you don't get much benefit from like API Gateway Lambda functions. There's not much of a benefit from using SAM, and it's just easier to work with CloudFormation straight up. So I'm going to go over here and just grab some usual things. So yeah, I'll go grab this. Allow, paste. This stack name is going to be called Frontend here. And we're going to go, this is not the right file. This is the template. We'll save that. We'll go over here to the TOML file here. We'll close that out. We'll pull up a different template file like this one here. Grab this line over. We'll paste this in. We'll grab this description here. We'll paste this in. Would love if we got some YAML highlighting here, but we need to create a CloudFront distribution. We need a S3 bucket for www, S3 bucket for naked domain. I mean, you don't have to do the www, but often people do type that in, and so you want to make sure that still reaches your site. So we'll have to create those two buckets. The www is going to forward to the naked domain. Hopefully I have these buckets. Nobody's created them. I don't know if AWS has a way around that where somebody has reserved your bucket name. Also, I don't know if we've named our bucket that. I might have reserved them in the beginning to make sure I wouldn't lose my buckets. I think we already have this open here. I'm going to make my way over to S3. Just give this a moment here, and I'm going to just see if I already have a crutter.com bucket. So I don't have anything interesting there. So we have assets.crutter.com. I don't have www or the naked one just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and we need to create ourselves a new S3 bucket. So I'm going to go and look up S3 bucket because we need two different ones here. CFN. And I'm going to go down to examples. So here is a very, very simple bucket. I'm going to go over here. We're going to have parameters here. Definitely we're going to need parameters. And we'll have resources. Just going to clear my throat 1 second again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. We have naked bucket and www bucket because that is going to be the two that we have. Deletion policy, probably retain. It's kind of annoying if we deploy this and then we roll back and it doesn't do this. So for the time being, I'm just going to comment that out. The bucket name actually does really matter in this case. We'll just say www bucket name. This will be ref here. Then we'll have, well, this one should really be up here. And then this one's going to be the naked bucket name. So then up here, we can just put those parameters in there as well. Bucket name, let's say type string, default, this will be www.crutter.com. I'm gonna go down here, say naked bucket name. And so now those are both being referenced. So that looks good to me. Now we need to do obviously more than that. We're gonna have to go ahead and grab this. I don't want the examples, I just want this part of the link. Whoops, this whole link here. And we're gonna go up here and just paste this as we've been doing everywhere so far. Okay. And so, yeah, those are in there. We'll go over here. We'll go to syntax. And so we need static website hosting on these. I'm not exactly sure where this is. Down here, probably website configuration. That's probably what we're looking for, because we'll have to set this on both of them. And so I'll go into website hosting here. I'm going to go down to examples. So yeah, you have your index document, your error document. I'm going to copy that. That's good for both. The one that's going to serve it up will probably be the naked domain. That's because, I mean, we could make it www if we wanted to. It was that we did the naked domain because for whatever reason, it was difficult for us to do it the other way. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, we could have made it www on the load balancer. Oh, because we had to have a default route, and I guess I had to go to that one. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just trying to think here. Like, what does Twitter do? Twitter probably uses a naked domain. Let's go take a look here. Yeah, so I think it's like up to you. Some people say that you should use the www as your main. So I go here, it redirects. I guess what we could do, just to keep it short, I'm gonna use www. Like, this bucket will be, this will redirect to the naked domain. And I guess we'll just do that. Personally, I like putting applications on like app or www. There's some reason for it. I can't remember why, but I don't know. We're going to put this on the naked one. So I can't think of a good reason why we should. So even though I say we should, if I can't remember, then we're not going to do that. We'll go ahead and paste this in here. It will be the naked domain that's going to serve at the website. Routing rules, this is probably what we're looking for. So I'm just going to copy this for a second. And then we'll look at it a little bit closer. Condition, I don't need that for the 404. Maybe that's all we can set. I'm just going to go in here. Go into management. Or maybe it's properties. They've changed this on me so many times I never know. Event notifications, object, down here. Okay, I'm just looking at some of the options. So if we enable it, because there's this option where you can do static or redirect, and so that's what I was kind of looking for. Apparently we have redirection rules down here. I'm not worried about that. So these are really the only values we need to set for this one. So that one's pretty straightforward. So well, this is redirect rules, and we definitely probably want that. So whoops. So we'll just take that out here for a second, and then up here, we'll just carefully read about all the properties here. Because there's routing rules, but I think this is what we want, is this redirect request to. Yeah, that's what we want. So I'm going to bring this one in up here. Okay, and we'll put that in as such. And then we'll click into this. And we have host name and protocol. The name of the host where these will redirect. So this is going to go to our naked domain, so Crutter. or it will be the name of the bucket. So this would be ref to naked bucket name, which has to be a domain name. It has to match exactly the same or it won't work. Protocol to use when redirecting. The default is the protocol that is used in the original request. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think we could just leave it alone because if it's not set, it will just use the default. And what's interesting here is like, notice that there isn't one, like there's not a third option saying like use the default. So sometimes you run this in CloudFormation where if you do set the setting, there's a third option if you don't set it. And so that is interesting there. So I'm hoping that that will redirect to that bucket. So that looks good there. The next thing we need to do is create the the CloudFront distribution. So type in CloudFront CFN. Now with CloudFront, there's more than one thing here. Just going to double check here. Because we have the distribution, but we might also need like a cross-origin policy or origin access control or some kind of policy like that. These also usually have 2 additional policies as well. Let's go down examples. Hopefully it'll save us a lot of work, especially if it has the updated stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this distribution. I don't know why this is lowercase, but you know, lots of developers, so you get lots of different things. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here, scroll on up. I'm going to call this distribution. I can't seem to type that to save my life. And we'll go back over here. So what we got? I don't need to associate lambdas for caching behaviors. We'll take that out. Default cache behavior, same thing here. We'll take that out. IPv6, don't care about that. This is not a very useful example. I feel like I've done CloudFormation before. CloudFront and CloudFormation before on a production account. So like for something that I've done. Let me go take a look. I'll be back here in a second, okay? No, I didn't find anything. So I guess in this case, we're just going to have to walk through it. Again, we could use ChatGPT or some kind of generative model. I don't trust these things as of late because we haven't been having a lot of great luck with them. Maybe in the future, they'll be a lot better. And you're watching this in the future saying, Andrew, why aren't you using that? But right now, I'm not really getting the results that I want to get out of it. So I guess we'll just have to walk through all these options here. A complex type that contains information about CNAMEs, alternate names, if any, for this distribution. That's definitely something we'll have to do. It says a list of strings. So we're going to go to here. I'm just going to take all this stuff out. All this stuff is kind of useless to me. And it wants a string. So whoops. Aliases. Aliases. Okay. And so this one is going to point to crutter.com. So just be ref naked bucket name. Okay, and so I think that's what we'd set there. Cache behaviors, a complex type contains 0 or more cache behaviors. Let's open that up. I want to go down. Do we even get examples? No, we don't. So you can see there's a lot going on there. I'm not sure what to do with that. We'll ignore that. Cache behaviors. Did that CNAMEs property description not available? Okay, that's interesting. A comment to describe it. I'm going to put a comment in here just so we don't forget what it is. I think that you do want to set this because otherwise you can't tell what it is. So it'd be like Frontend React JS for Crutter. Continuous deployment policy ID. Continuous deployment policy ID. What is this for? Continuous deployment with what? We'll go over here. Create a continuous deployment policy that routes a subset of production traffic from a primary distribution to a staging distribution. Okay, not exactly sure what that's for, but we'll go down below. Custom error response, we don't need that. Custom origin, I don't know. Choosing this legacy type. Property description not available. I don't understand, like, this is not a new service. Why is there no description? The legacy property types is not available okay, so maybe it's gone. Default cache behavior, a complex type that describes the default cache behavior. This one is required, so I guess we have to do this one. So we'll put this in. I mean, we can ask ChatGPT to write it. So write a CFN script for static website hosting that redirects the naked domain or the www domain to the naked domain and uses CloudFront to serve up the web site. Okay. Just because there's so much to type, I'm going to take a stab at it here. But I generally don't like doing it this way. So here we have an S3 bucket on the domain name. It's not doing it for the www domain, so I'm not surprised. But if we look at the redirect, can we just redirect that way? Usually that's not how I do it. I'll create a bucket and then I'll set it to redirect alias a CloudFront distribution name. I don't know if I would do it this way. Redirect using a www.crutter.com bucket, not using row 53. Okay. Let's see if that's a little bit better. Okay, but that's wrong because now it doesn't have the original in there. Okay, so this is where I just kind of get fed up with ChatGPT, but it can give us kind of an example to look through. So sometimes that will help with some of these properties. But the thing is, there are old and new properties, so we have to make sure we're using the latest one. And right now we are doing this default cache behavior. So let's take a look here. So target origin ID S3 origin, redirect to HTTPS. That's actually probably what we would want to do. So I'll bring those over here. These are just options that we set. So like when we're setting it up, I just know what I'm looking at. Forwarded values, query strings, false, cookies, forward, none. I don't know what we'd want to forward. I would think that we'd want to forward cookies because this is an app that can do stuff. We would also probably want to forward other values, but I'm not 100% sure here. And you can see there's a lot of stuff in here. Forwarded values. Don't use it anymore. See, and ChatGPT is generating it out. Not the most reliable thing, but we did ask using 3.5, so maybe we should try 4.0 here. Maybe it'll be smarter this time around. I'll be back here when it's done generating. All right, let's see if ChatGPT 4 is any smarter at this. And actually, it looks like it's done a much better job. So here we have the root bucket. That's what I would have done. Here it's redirecting to the naked domain. That's exactly what I want. We have a bucket policy, which is something that we would have to generate, and that is correct as well. We have a record set. I mean, technically, we would need a record set, so that's something that we would have to put in there. We have a record set for the root and the WW, so that is correct. I guess the question is, can they go to the same distribution? Now, I don't know why, but maybe this is wrong, but I would always create two distributions, and one would be for the naked, one would be for the WW. If you can do both, that'd be very interesting. So I'm actually quite curious now about that. So looking at this CloudFront distribution, we have the origins. It's going to the root. You can say naked or root bucket. I guess root sounds better. I just could not remember the other name, so if you find that weird, sorry for the weird naming. We have query string false. I'm not sure why we don't do that. Enabled true, version 2 is fine. See, they put a comment in there, which is smart. They have the default root object. The thing I don't see here are the aliases, so that's something that definitely has to be there. CloudFront should use an ACM that is imported, that is referenced through a parameter. Let's see if it can figure that out. So yeah, maybe it's just 3.5 is just terrible. I'll be back here when it's done generating. All right, let's take a look at what it's done. And again, this is only good if you know what it's doing. So yeah, it's going to bring in the certificate ARN here. So I'm going to grab that because it's definitely going to be. Well, actually, we do set this in the cluster, so we can just grab it from the cluster so that it just has the same name. It should be in here. Certificate ARN, yep. So I'm going to put that up here. I'm going to make my way back over here. We'll take a look. That is correct. This policy looks correct to me. I'm going to just change it over to root because that way then I can copy over more of this stuff. So it says naked. So naked is just kind of a weird word, but I mean, it's true. That's what it is, but whatever. We'll make things a lot easier if we just change these over to root. Okay, coming back over here, then I can bring in this bucket policy. So we'll go ahead and bring that in. So yeah, we'll need a bucket policy. I'm just going to go here, paste that in. And yeah, so that's going to be for the root bucket, which I think now is also named, yeah, the same thing, good. They also named www the same way I did, so that's kind of cool. It's almost like they're copying my code. Bucket, root bucket domain, so they have a record set for that. So technically, you could do that. I don't know why it has this weird value in here because we wouldn't know what the hosted zone ID is at this point in time. But we can go ahead and grab this and we'll have to change it. So we'll go here and paste this in. And so here, this would be the, ref hosted zone ID. Bring that up here. Put that in as a parameter. We'll bring that in. We'll just say type. And we'll have to set that, that later there. We could just set it now if we want. So here we'll just say parameters. Parameters. We have hosted zone ID. Root bucket name. I also did this wrong. They're not supposed to be the same. I'm going to just take it off and actually define it in here instead. This will be www bucket name. We'll need our certificate ARN. We're going to grab that from our cluster config. Copy that in there. I now need this hosted zone ID, so I'm going to go over here and we'll just go into route 53. And in here, I will have a domain for Crowder. And apparently Harlan's lawn care website, which I really wish Baco didn't put that in there, but hey, what am I going to do now? It's there. What I'm looking for here is the ID. It's over here. It's kind of cut off. So we'll grab it from here. And I'll just paste that in here. Take that off on this side. Okay, so that's set up. We'll just click that, turn that, click out of there. So we brought in this record set here. And we have a record set for the other one. This one is pointing to CloudFront distribution. This one also is pointing to CloudFront distribution. Okay, so let's give that a go because I've never tried that before. I don't know if it's just hallucinating, but I've always had to create two CloudFront distributions. If we only have one, I would love that. I hate making two. It's very frustrating. So we'll go ref here. We'll just say hosted zone ID. These names, of course, are going to be whatever we want this to be. This has a period on the end of it, so I'm just going to do sub so that we have the period. I don't know if it'll work with and without the period, so we should just probably make sure we have it for both. Hosted zone name, this is going to be based on whatever the root domain name is. But we're going to do this here, and then do a period on it. Same thing with this one. This period is very important for DNS records because they actually always have them on. Some of them will just add it in for you, so you don't have to worry about which one, what is what, but you should have it. And this is actually not root domain name. It's going to be just bucket name here. So that's what we called it up there. So this one is going to be very similar, except instead of this one, it'll be www. Up here, it's going to be root because that's the name of the hosted zone. If your host zone is different, then you might even have something else there. So that looks better. We'll go back over to here and see what else it did. So, and again, I'm just seeing if it's doing the new stuff or the old stuff, because that's something that we have to make sure it's doing correctly. We have origin, so that is something that we wanted. So they'll bring that over here. Almost certain that we have to have alias in here, but maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, that would be correct there. Fix that indentation. We'll go to the next one. We already have viewer. Do we have that in yet? No. Well, let's just bring it all in and then we'll decide, okay? Paste that in here. So I think we already set, we don't, but we'll bring this up here because it's important information. So we'll bring that up for the default behavior. Hold on here. Why didn't that come to the same level here? Oh, okay, so it's actually under this option, I guess? Or is my indentations just wrong? Let me just undo that for a second. I can't tell what I'm looking at here. I'm gonna go back over here. Default config. Oh, it's really interesting how it's laid out. I'm actually just gonna break it all here. Why does that not look right to me? I'm gonna go back over here and go to the top here, syntax. We'll go back out of the aliases here. Distribution config. Oh, we're in it right now, I think. Yeah, we clicked one in. Okay, yeah, maybe that is right. All right. We'll go back over here. I'm just going to drag this on down. So maybe we messed up. This is supposed to be on the inside here. So, yeah, I must have messed up big time. I'll just take these out because clearly I'm not doing it right. Here. I don't even have a link for this. We'll bring this in here. I'm going to go back over here. Oh, that's all there is inside of it. Okay. So that's why I was getting kind of mixed up there. Okay, so this is then correct. Where'd that comment go? Oh, it's up here. Is that top level? It is? Okay, great. Enabled, is it enabled? Yep. Bring that up here. HTTP version, yep. Just these smaller ones, I'd rather have these at the top. This is my preference. So I guess they're both pointing there, but one redirects. I just don't understand how they can both be pointing to this distribution when this one is not necessarily on set up for that. Okay, I'm surprised we didn't have to set alias. Hold on here, aliases. A complex site that contains information about the CNAME, alternate domain names, if any, for this distribution. I'm almost certain that we're supposed to set that. Let's go over here. Let's go check out CloudFront. Let's see what we did for our other one here for the assets. And look, Baco did one for here. As you can see here, he did one that was, it's actually kind of convenient that this is here, but you can see that he did one for distribution for the naked domain and the www. So I just don't understand why that one doesn't necessarily need to be set. But when you go and you create a distribution over here, they'll have an option for the name. So, and you're supposed to set it. Additional settings. They keep changing this on me, so I get mixed up. So yeah, there's support for 3. 3 might not be bad. 3 is actually probably better than anything else here. I wonder if I can put in 3 here. Like that. I mean, I'd like to put in multiples because you can see that you can checkbox them. So, seems like we should be able to do multiples here. I'm going to go to the top here for a moment. What was that under? HP version was top level. This is not the right page. So 2 and 3, that's what I want. I don't know, I just think that's probably better. IPv4, etc., etc. If I choose this. I'm just looking for that alias option. Alternate domain name here, CNAME, optional. Add the custom domain name that you use in the URL for the file served by this distribution. So this is something that I've always done. I've always added in here, but it's interesting that one didn't do that. I'm not seeing alias anywhere in here. So I always assumed that that's what CNAME was, because if you go back over to here, into syntax, you'll notice CNAME's up here. And so, what did I click through onto that? It says property description not available. So it's either aliases or CNAMEs is that thing. So information about CNAMEs, alternate domain names, if any, for this distribution. So I don't know. I can't tell what the difference between these two are. It's not very clear based on their information here. But what's interesting is that I don't see either CNAME or the other one being set. And so it makes me think that it shouldn't work. Why is CNAME not set for the distribution? I guess I didn't know. But yeah, you'd only know that if you've done this 100 times, and so that's something that I thought was a bit off. So I mean, it's not too hard to figure out what the CNAME option would be, but again, I don't know why aliases and CNAME are both there. So aliases versus CNAME, CloudFront. I'm just looking for, what if I type in aliases here? Yeah, it doesn't say. So notice it set it as alias, and that's what I was wondering. That's what I thought was going to happen here. And actually it set both. So I don't ever set both, but maybe we can do both. Because again, it'd be really nice if we only had a single distribution. So we'll say here, crutter and crutter. But yeah, that was the only thing that I saw that was missing. Some other things that might matter is this option here for the SSL support. I'd have to take a look there because there is a lot of different options for that. I don't know what the default is. I mean, I think there should be. We go to viewer certificate. And that thing is called SSL supported method. So we go over here. And see, it says the distribution accepts HTTPS connections only from viewers that support server name SINs. The distribution accepts HTTPS. So, you know, I don't know what I should set for this. I guess we'll leave it on SNI only. I really just don't know. But this was actually the other thing I was looking for was here, which is the minimum protocol version, which is not being set. So if it doesn't need to be set, let's not set it because I don't know what best to choose for that. I'd rather AWS decide for me. I'm not sure about these forwarded values. Again, I still think there might be more to it there. I'm going to go ahead here and just go work in progress front end, CloudFront. Okay, so I think we have enough to attempt to deploy here. Of course, it's not going to contain any files, so that's something we'll have to do afterwards. We'll have to figure a way to sync or deploy that stuff. I have made a syncing script, so we can use that. And it's really interesting because it almost works like Terraform. So you might appreciate taking a look at that as well. But we'll go down below here to our bin directory, open up CFN, and I'm going to make a new one here called Frontend Deploy. And the thing is that we only want to run this to provision the infrastructure, not necessarily to trigger deploy. So just understand when I say deploy, I mean deploying or provisioning. I probably should have put the word provision for all these or not have the word deploy at all so it's less confusing. I'm actually going to take out the word deploy on that just so we don't get mixed up and we think it's deployment because it's not exactly what that is. I guess the reason we say deploy is because CFN has a deploy action and that's what we're using, but I don't want you to get that mixed up with thinking you're rolling out application changes. So I'm just going to take that word out to make it a bit easier. So we're going to copy from the cluster because that one is probably most similar. We'll go over to front end here. We'll paste this in. And this one is now going to just be front end up here. Yep, and this is pretty similar. The prefix here is going to just be front end. And this will be front end here as well. And then we need to chmod this. So we will go, oops, I'll type clear here. Bring this over. Bump this up a bit. Chmod u plus x bin CFN front end. Like that. And so we'll see if this even works or if it errors out on the linting. The linting is not happy. Let's take a look at what it's saying. Invalid get ATT domain name for resource bucket. Maybe it just made that up and those aren't things that we can do. Let's go ahead and I like how I said I wasn't going to use ChatGPT because I don't trust it, but I don't know. When I saw how many records there were there, I just kind of gave up. So we'll go here and paste this in. Just want to grab these so we can quickly link to them when we need them. I don't like doing that. I like having it like that. We will click through on this one here. I'm looking at the return values. It has a domain name right there. So maybe there's a mismatch with the name. So if we go here, it says certificate aren't not used. It definitely is used, but it probably wasn't updated for wherever it was referenced in the distribution here. Yeah, so we'll take that out. This is just going to be certificate ARN. A root bucket domain invalid get ATT line 54. So we'll go up to line 54. I mean, maybe the line moved. Let me try this one more time. I think it's because we just call ours distribution. To make this, it's only referenced in 2 places, so I'm going to just change this to distribution because it's going to append that stack name in front of it, and I just want to be sure I can easily read it. Try that again. Fingers crossed. It's creating our change set. That is promising. Hopefully there's no permissions issue. And you know what? If we do have to create 2 distributions, it's not a big deal, but it does take some time to do these deployments. We're going to make our way over to CloudFormation. And we'll do change sets. We'll refresh. This is not the right area. I can tell because there's nothing here. Go over to Canada Central. I'm going to just close these out. The naked domain is there. I'm just wondering if we have to remove the other domain because this one's going to be on root. So before we go ahead, I just don't want this to error out on us. I'm going to remove the root domain. Hosted zones. Crutter. And NS is fine, but this A one has to go. So we'll delete that one because that's going to be in our way. Great, so that's now out of the way. So we won't have a problem there, we won't have a conflict saying it already exists. And I'm going to go ahead and attempt to deploy this. I hope that nobody has tried to create my buckets. Otherwise, that's going to really screw me over here. I will literally won't be able to do it. So we'll try this again. And, oh, we never even ran it yet. Okay, so we'll go over to our change sets. You can see there's 2 now. I'm going to delete the old one. I'm going to just execute this one. Fingers crossed that no one's taken my bucket names. That is such a huge oversight on AWS's architecture. Like, they shouldn't do that. I think it's like, you should, if you want to use a domain bucket, you should have to confirm it via your domain name or something, you know? Or be able to get it back if somebody has it. Anyway, I'll be back here when this error is out. I just can't imagine it'll work first time, but if it does, hey, I'll be happy. All right, let's take a look at what failed here. We'll go back over to our events. Resources handler message, invalid request provided. The specified SSL certificate doesn't exist in US East 1 region, isn't valid, or doesn't include a valid certificate. You're supposed to create the certificates per region. And I'm not attempting to deploy in US East 1. I want to deploy, well, it's Crutter is CloudFront is a global service. So maybe the certificate has to exist in US East 1, and that's the problem that we're having here. So let's make our way over to US East 1, because I think we made one in both. So even if the buckets reside somewhere else, it might be that the certificate has to be the same place where CloudFront is. And CloudFront, again, is a global service, and so it might be looking for things in US East 1, because you don't select, right, that there. So all I'll do is I'll go over to ACM, and we will make our way over to North Virginia. And we'll give it a moment here, and we can see our certificate here. We will go ahead and grab that instead. So I'll go back over here to my config file. And yeah, this one's in CA Central, so that's probably what it's complaining about. Even though our buckets, I mean, they should be in CA Central. If they're not, it's not like that big of a deal, but just there's some things that have to be in US East 1. And so this might be one of those cases. We'll go ahead and delete that old stack. But it just really sucks if we do have issues with a distribution, because they take forever. And by the way, we never looked at this, but after we deployed CI/CD, you can actually see the nested stack. So if we go in here, I should have talked about this in the prior video, but if we go into our resources, you can see in here this, which will link to the other stack, okay, which is just right up here. And so you can see that there are 2 files. If you were to, see it says nested up here, if we were to, I think it's like, if we delete this, we can't, because we have to delete the parent stack or something like that. So just understand when you delete these things, they have to be teared down a certain way. But we didn't have any problems, so we never had that experience of trying that out. If we do end up doing tearing everything down, then we'll know. Okay, so what did I want to do? I wanted to make sure I just deleted that other stack there. It is gone, I believe. We're going to make our way back over to Git pod. We are going to just type in clear, and we'll say bin CFN. Does that still name service deploy? They've all been renamed. Whatever. It's definitely named. Oh, it isn't still named that. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to take that off like that. And we're going to go back over to CloudFront or CloudFormation. Go here, execute the change set, and hopefully this time it will work. I'll be back here if it fails, okay? Another rollback failed, no problem here. Let's go take a look here. Failed to create route bucket policy. route rollback requested by user. S3 bucket policy access denied. So that's where we're having this issue, is our root bucket policy. We'll go back over here, take a look. Maybe there's something wrong with it. I mean, there has to be, otherwise it would have just worked. So we'll go look at the bucket policy. I'm just going to bring this over here. Is get object enough for that? That seems pretty minimal to me. Sometimes you have to do both. You have to do the resource and like the / and the asterisk. So I'm not 100% sure there. So I might say like, or you know what? We can just go look because we already have, you don't, but we have here an S3 one that Harlan Lawn website. So really useful that Baco actually did set up, even though I was complaining about it. It actually now is going to come in handy for us. And so in here we have Harlan's website. So this is the public one that's going to have the bucket policy on it. So I'm going to go into properties here. Not there. Or permissions, sorry, that's where it would be. And so this only has a get object on there, so that's probably all we need. S3 www / so that looks correct. It looks correct. So I'm not exactly sure what its problem is. Let's go back over here and read it again. API S3 bucket policy access denied. I wonder if it's because we have to open up the bucket policies. Let me go double check here for Harlan's website. We have, yeah, so you don't need to have, well, it says public access up here. Oh, it is, everything is turned off. So maybe we do have to muck with our bucket policies. I'm just going to go here and say, do we need to open up bucket policies to gain access? Let's see if it figures it out. That is not exactly what I wanted to do, but oh, maybe it's going to update it here. That is really useless. Okay, so it didn't really do what we wanted to do. I think the reason this might be happening is we need to make sure the bucket policy is open, because that thing might block it, eh? So I'm not 100% sure what it's supposed to be, but let's go take a look and figure it out. So I'm going to go into here. It's the same link, I think. Yeah, I'm going to just copy this twice here. And I'm looking for this option here. And we'll go here, place that there. And we'll click into here. ACLs are fine, we'll leave those alone. Ignore public ACLs. We'll ignore that again. Restrict public access. Let's read this here. Specifies whether Amazon S3 should restrict bucket policies for this bucket. Setting this element to true restricts access to this bucket to only AWS service principals and authorized users within the account if the bucket has a public policy. And really, this doesn't affect the previously stored things. I think we don't need to set this one. We don't care about ACLs. We only care about this one. Block public policy. Specify whether Amazon S3 should block public policies for this bucket. And I'm going to go here. Say false. Specifies whether S3 should restrict bucket policies for this bucket. Setting this element to true restricts access to the bucket to only AWS service principals and authorized users So I think that's what we want, I think. But I mean, like, if it's service principals, does that mean it can't be things externally? But it's like CloudFront that's requesting it, right? So I think that this is all we need to do is set this here. I'm going to go back here. We're going to delete this. We're going to go ahead and try this again, okay? Apparently I set that up incorrectly. I don't see how it's wrong, but we'll go back here for a second. To the top here. Just go to the top. Doesn't seem wrong to me. Invalid property resources configuration. Okay, I copied and pasted it. I don't see how that could be wrong. We're in S3 bucket, right? Yeah, we are. Let me double check this here. I don't know. Let me play around with this. I'll be back in a second, okay? Oh, you know what it is? I'm trying to put this in the policy itself. I'm just getting kind of mixed up. This is actually supposed to go in the bucket as an option. You're probably staring at me going, Andrew, what the heck? Okay, so we'll try this and see if this resolves our issue. We'll give it a moment here. We'll go over here into our change set. Looks good to me. We're gonna go ahead and hit execute. And so hopefully this time it works. I'll see you back here if there's an error. Well, let's see what we got here. It failed, so we'll go over to our events. And it says, try to create an alias of the targets for A and zone, but the alias target does not lie within the target zone. Try to create an alias targets type A. The target was not found. So this is interesting. It's failing on these. Are these Route 53? So normally, like I don't always create record sets this way. I might just manually hook them up because they're not a big deal. But it looks like the distribution worked, which is the hard part, to be honest. But the part that failed was the record sets, surprisingly. So yeah, I'm just going to carefully read this. Try to create an alias that targets this type A in zone, but the alias target does not lie within the target zone. Don't know what that means. The zone ID with the alias in the S3 bucket zone ID, not the Rev53 zone. The correct, okay. The zone ID with alias in the S3 bucket zone ID. I don't know what they're saying. Let me read about this for a second. I'll be back, okay? All right, so I think when I saw hosted zone, I assumed it was talking about Rev53. But what, I was just looking at the template going, well, it already knows based on the name. Why would it need its ID? And then here it says, specify this. This is always the hosted zone when you create an alias record for CloudFront distribution. So apparently, it was supposed to be that all along. I just had no idea. Okay, so that's interesting. I thought that was ChatGPT, but guess I was wrong. I'm going to make a comment here so we know that, because that is such a weird one. Okay. And I'll copy that. We'll go up here. We'll save that. It's really unfortunate that that was the case. It takes forever to create distributions and tear them down. So once this is done deleting, I guess it's already done. What we'll do is we'll go here. We'll do bin CloudFront, CFN CloudFront. Says that parameter is not being used. It isn't being used, so we'll go up here and get rid of it. Same thing in the config toml. I'll just get rid of it so it's not just hanging around there for no reason. And we'll go back over here. We'll do a bin CloudFormation front end. Create that change set. We'll give this a refresh here. We'll go back into review in progress, change sets, execute change set. We'll go do that. This is going to take a while, so I'll see you back. This takes like 10, 20 minutes. It's just the distribution takes forever to create, but I think this time it's going to work. See you soon. All right, we are back, and it says it deployed, so that is really great. Now, in order to know if this is working is a little bit trickier because we actually have to have some code deployed to it. And so, I mean, I'm happy that the infrastructure is deployed. I still don't know if we have to have a different distribution, but if it still doesn't work, we can play around with it and fix it as we go. I'm just trying to decide, like what is the next step? Should we try to get the app working or do the Cognito part? Again, I'm not 100% sure if I will do all of the CloudFormation, like every piece of infrastructure in CloudFormation, because we're just doing quite a bit of it. But I think this is good, and we're going to stop here. We'll do diagramming after this, and then we'll look at trying to get the application back into a working state, since we tore everything down and or tore enough down, and we don't have everything in our databases and stuff. But anyway, I will see you in the next one. Ciao.